Soon after the Second World War, engineers in the USSR and the United States began thinking about a new generation of amphibious armored vehicles. What they wanted was a machine that combined mobility with reliable protection. The idea was controversial. Some saw amphibious capability as a needless complication, while others viewed it as the key to victory in regions dense with rivers and swamps. In the end, both superpowers invested heavily in pursuing it. In the Soviet Union, one of the earliest post-war examples was the PT-76. This amphibious light tank carried a 76mm gun and only bulletproof armor. In the water, propulsion came from 2 water jets. The result was dependable, technologically straightforward, and relatively cheap, which opened the door to mass production. The High Command deemed the concept a success and, for years to come, treated amphibious capability as an important requirement for future designs. That approach also shaped the BMP-1. Engineers at the Kurgan factory settled for light armor that protected against bullets and shrapnel. The infantry fighting vehicle was expected to dismount troops away from the main fire, avoiding direct clashes with heavy weapons. Under that concept, the level of protection seemed sufficient. Preparing to cross a water obstacle was quick. The crew raised the trim vane, and the vehicle could enter the water. Similar views were common in the United States. The M41 and T-92 light tanks could not swim, and that was one of the reasons why the latter program was canceled. Attention then shifted to the M113 and M114 armored personnel carriers, as well as the M551 Sheridan light tank. To combine mobility, protection, and amphibious capability, designers turned to aluminum armor, which significantly reduced vehicle weight. Vietnam, however, exposed the weak points of this philosophy. Early M113s proved vulnerable to machine gun fire and mines. The Sheridan also suffered from reliability issues. Its powerful gun launcher imposed heavy loads on the hull, while the light armor gave the crew little chance of surviving hits. Practice showed that the ability to swim rarely compensates for poor protection, and the very notion of a lightly armored amphibious vehicle with a large caliber weapon came under harsh criticism. When designing the next generation, engineers took the bitter lessons to heart. The Army still wanted amphibious capability, but heavy armor and stronger weapons made the requirement almost impossible to satisfy. The new Bradley IFV carried a 25mm autocannon and anti-tank missiles, and its roomy hull improved survivability. Early production vehicles could still swim, but only in calm water and after careful preparation. Over time, priorities shifted toward protection. Additional armor plates and skirts increased weight, and amphibious capability was dropped entirely. Crew survival and firepower proved more valuable than the occasional ability to ford a river without a bridge. In the Soviet Union, similar conclusions were reached after the war in Afghanistan and conflicts in the Middle East. Up-armored BMP-2D variants appeared, protected enough that they could no longer swim. Yet the amphibious concept was not abandoned altogether. The BMP-3, BMD-4, and Sprute SD entered production, combining heavy firepower with the ability to cross rivers without prolonged preparation. The history of amphibious armor makes one thing clear: there are no perfect answers. For decades, designers searched for a balance between weight, protection, and mobility. Some countries ultimately chose maximum survivability, giving up water mobility. Others remained committed to amphibious vehicles, finding new ways to protect them in a modern war. The debate over what matters most in combat continues to this day.